I'm Anil Kumar. Welcome to my series on basic arithmetic. We'll discuss ratios, rate, and proportion in this particular video. I have 10 questions for you. First, let us look into these questions. Question number 1, we need to convert each ratio in simplest form. So we have ratio of two numbers, three ratios. You need to write them in the simplest form. Question number 2 is to convert the ratios to simplest form. However, we have given the units. For example, the first one is 45 seconds and 2 minutes. So we need to first write them in the same units and then write the ratio in simplest form. Remember, ratios are always written in the same units, right? Then we have question number 3, where we need to write again the ratios in the simplest form. In this particular case, we have taken decimal numbers. When we have to write the ratios in simplest form, we should not be using decimal numbers. That's the emphasis for question number 3. You can actually pause the video and answer these questions and then look into my suggestions. Question number 4 is that we are given different ratios. Now, these ratios, one value is missing, the x value, which you need to figure out. So you can use the concept of proportions, the equivalent ratios, and then find the value of x. Question number 5. Again, it's kind of same thing, right? However, this may be slightly difficult as we are working with bigger numbers now. Calculator is not allowed for this particular test. Question number 6 is, are the ratios 8:15 and 56:105 equivalent? Explain. Question number 7 is, how many different fraction equations can be written based on the proportion A is to B equals to C is to D? That's a very interesting question. Question number 8 is, if A is to B is equal to 3:4 and B is to C is 5:7, find the ratio of A to C, right? So that's a transition kind of a thing you need to figure out. Question number 9 is a word problem. Age of father and son is 50 and 30 years respectively. After how many years from now will ratio of father and son will be 3:2? The last question here is, ratio of almonds, raisins and walnuts is 3:4:5 in a mixture. If the mixture is 360 grams, how much raisin is in the mixture? Correct? So you can actually answer these questions and then look into my suggestions. At the end of this video, I hope most of the concepts about ratios will be clear, right? So let's begin with the very first one, which is to convert each ratio to simplest form. 12:16. We need to figure out a common factor. So the idea here is to find common factor. The common factor is 4, right? So we can actually divide each by 4. Right? So that is kind of an hint. So when you divide by 4, 12, you get 3. And 16 divided by 4 is 4. You can also see that 4 becomes a scale factor when you want to go from the lowest to the given proportion, correct? 28 to 35. Now both are multiples of 7, so we can divide each by 7. So if you do that, we get 7 times 4 and 7 times 5, right? 54 and 36. We can divide them by 9, right? So 9 times 6 is 54 and 9 times 4 is 36. However, you notice that 6 and 4 still have a common factor of 2. So they can be further reduced to 3:2. Is that clear? So 3:2 will be the simplest form. So when I say simplest form, it means they should not have any common factor after writing the ratio. Now when we have 3 terms in a ratio, same strategy is to be adopted. Now here we could divide by 4, right? So dividing by 4 is 2:11:10. In this case, you could divide by what? So this is what you need to figure out, right? You may not get the number straight away. So in that case, you could do it in parts. For example, we can first divide by, let us say 2. So I get 8, 2 times 12, and then 15. Well, this cannot be further reduced, so that becomes the simplest ratio, right? The next one here is all the multiples of 8, right? So we could divide each by 8. 8 times 4 is to 1 is to 5. Correct? So that becomes the ratio in this particular case. Right? Let's move on and take up question number 2 now. Convert each ratio to simplest form. Now we are given 45 seconds and 2 minutes. Now as you know, 1 minute is equal to 60 seconds. So 2 minutes will be equals to 2 times 60, 120 seconds. So we could write this as, let me write in a different ink. We can write this as 45 seconds to 2 minutes is 120 seconds. Right? So it's good practice to write them in the same units. Only then we are talking about ratios, right? So seconds and seconds can now cancel. These two terms, let's divide first by 5. So if I divide by 5, I get 5 times 9 is 2. When I divide by 5, 5 times 2 is 10 and 24. This can further be divided by 3. Dividing by 3, we get 3:8. So 3:8 becomes the ratio, right? Now I'm not writing what we are dividing by, but I'm explaining you, right? So these are the equivalent ratios. Perfect. Here, 240 hours and 5 days. As you know, 1 day is equal to 24 hours. Correct? So 5 days will be 24 times 5 hours. So let's replace. So what we get here as 240 hours is to, instead of 5 days, I can write this as 24 times 5 hours. Now hours will cancel. 24 will go 10 times, right? So we can write 24 will go 10 times. We get 10 is to 5. Is that clear? We can further divide by 5 to get 2:1 as our ratio. Is that clear to you, right? The last one, I would like you to pause the video and do it yourself. 15 months and 2 years. Now 1 year is 12 months. So 2 years will be how much? So 2 years will be 24 months, correct? So we could write this as 15 months to 24 months. Dividing each by 3, we get 5 is to 8. So 5:8 will be our lowest term for the given ratio. Months and months will cancel. Correct? Question number 3. Convert each ratio to simplest form. Here we are given 3.5. Now the idea is to get rid of decimals, right? So you need to get rid of decimals in ratios. So all the values should be natural numbers, okay? So what we can do is we can multiply by 10. So we could get this as 140 is to 35. So if I times by 10, right? So if I times by 10, both the terms, right? So if I do times 10, both of them, 3.5 times 10 will be 35. And we get 140 to 35. This can be reduced. Dividing by 5, we get what? 5 times 2 and 8, right? 28. 5 times 7. Now 7 also divides into 28. So we get 4 is to 1. Is that clear to you, right? So 4 times 35 is 140. You could have gone direct also. Is that clear to you? Now 8.1 to 36. You can actually pause the video, answer this, and then look into my suggestions. So we'll again multiply by 10. So we get 81 is to 360, right? Dividing by 9, we get 9 is to 40, right? So 9 is to 40 is the lowest term. They do not have any other common factor. Question number 4. We need to now find the value of unknown in the proportions. So we have 6 is to 30 equals to 4 is to x. So we given, let me rewrite this. 6 is to 30 equals to 4 is to x. Now the idea is to get the value of x. There are a couple of ways in which we could do it. One, we could write this left side into lowest terms. 6 is to 30 could be written as, dividing by 6 both of the terms, 1 is to 5 equals to 4 is to x. Now, going from 1 to 4, what should you do? You need to multiply by 4, right? So times 4. So that is to say, we have to times 4 from going from 5 to x also, right? So when you want to go from 5 to x, it is the same ratio. So it is multiplied by 4. So therefore, we could write this as 1 is to 5 will be equals to 4 is to 5 times 4 is 20, right? So that is a ratio. So this is the way you should do it. Now here is an alternate method. So alternate method is to write them in fractions. We could say 6 over 30 equals to 4 over x, right? And then we can write this as x equals to cross multiply, right? So 4 times 30 over 6. Is that clear to you, right? So cross multiply and find the value of x. So this is also a very effective way of finding the unknowns. So now this goes 5 times and 5 times 4 is 20. So we get the same answer. Is that clear to you, right? So we get our answer, which is x is equal to 20. Perfect. I'd like you to apply any one of these strategies and find the value of x in the other two examples. Okay, so let's continue. So now we have x is to 12 equals to 12 is to 18. So it's a good idea to reduce these terms to the lowest term. So 12 and 18 can be divided by 6. So I get 6 times 2 and 3, right? So we have x is to 12 equals to 2 is to 3. Now to make 3 as 12, what should I do? To make 3 as 12, so this is an alternate method, right? To make 3 as 12, I have to multiply by 4. So we get 8 is to 12. And from here, you can compare and say that x is equal to 8, right? So that becomes another method, right? So this is our method 3. So we learned 3 different methods of finding the unknown value. Is that clear to you, right? The last one here, we have the ratio. Let me do using the second method. We have 52 over 4 equals to x over 5, correct? So what should x be equal to? So x is equal to 5 times 52 over 4, correct? 52 is 13 times 4. In a pack of cards, everybody gets 13 cards. if 4 players are playing with 52 cards, right? So from here, we know that the value of x is 13 times 5. 5 times 3 is 15 and 1, 65. So 65 is the right answer. Perfect. Let's take the question number 5. Let's continue with question number 5. Find the value of unknown in proportion. 112 is to 80 equals to 84 to x. So I'll prefer to write this as fractions. 112 over 80 equals to 84 over x. So we'll cross multiply. So we get x equals to 84 times 80 over 112, right? Remember, the calculator is not allowed. So what we are doing here is an exercise which is without calculator. So we have learned 3 techniques. You could adopt any technique of your interest to solve these questions, right? Okay. So let's divide them. So I think this can be divided by 4, since 12 can be divided by 4. 4 times 2 is 8, then 32, 28, right? So 4 goes 2 times, we get 21 here, right? 28 and 21 can be divided by 7. 7 times 3 and 7 times 4, correct? And 4 and 80 you can divide now by 20. So 3 times 20 is 60. So we get the value of x as equal to 60. Do you see that? So this technique of cross multiplication actually works fairly well when we are talking about 2 ratios, right? It becomes difficult when we are talking about 3 ratios, right? Okay. Now let's see how to do when we have 3 numbers here. So now we are talking about x is to 12 is to y equals to 12 is to 18 is to 15. Now 12, 18 and 15 could be simplified. So we'll write this as x is to 12 is to y equals to. Dividing them by 3, we get 4 is to 6 is to 5. Perfect. Now we see, well, that 6 goes 2 times 2, right? So 6 times 2 is 12. So scale factor is 12, right? When we are going from this side to that side. Perfect. Okay. So we have to just is 2, right? Scale factor is 2. So to get x and y, we can straight away get x as equals to 4 times 2, right? 4 times 2, which is 8. And the value of y will be 5 times 2, which is 10. Is it clear? So that becomes our answer, right? So when you multiply this by 2, each one of them, we get what? We get the values which are 8 is to 12 is to 10. So comparing, x is 8, right? And y is 10. So you could do like this also. Is that clear? Perfect. So let's move on and take question number 6. Are the ratios 8 is to 15 same as 56 over 105? So a couple of ways to do it. We have 8 is to 15 on one side and 56 is to 105 on the other side. So what we could do here is we could divide this by some number. So 56, you could divide 8 times 7 is 56. So we could divide this by 7, right? So when you divide by 7, you get this as 8 and 7 times 15 is 105. You could do that, or you could multiply this one by 7, right? If you multiply this by 7, you get 56 is to 105, right? So either way, you would have done it, right? So you could say that they are equivalent ratios. With scale factor of 7. Is it clear? So that is how you could answer this question. Question number 7. How many different fraction equations can be written based on the proportion A is to B equals to C is to D? Now that is very tricky, right? So basically fraction equations are like this. We could write this as A over B. If I write A over B, I have to write this as C over D, right? Now the idea is that as far as A is concerned, we could write in many different places, right? And accordingly, we can choose B also in different places, right? So that is the whole idea. Now that gives you the amount of the number of ways in which, for example, I could write A right there, right? I could write B then either in this place, right? So B has to be across. So the choice here is we have 4 positions for A, right? So we have 4 positions for A, right? So that is our, if I have to place A, I could place A either in this position, that position, or this or that, right? So I could write as I've written here, or I could write A here, right? So A here, and then I have a choice to place B. So B could now be placed in this kind of a fraction. If I write A here, I could write B here, there. So these 2 places I could have written B, right? So I could write like A if I write here, I could write B here. In that case, I have no option for C and D but to place them as D over C, right? But placing A in this position, I could actually place B here. So I could write B here also, right? In that case, if I write B here, I have to place C here and D here. Do you get the idea? Correct? So there are 4 positions for A, and once I put A there, as far as B is concerned, I have 2 positions, right? So there are 2 positions for B, right? And then C and D are fixed. Then C and D have 1 each position. Correct? And therefore, we can say total variations are 4:2, which is 8. Correct? So we can have 8 combinations of placing A's, B's, and C's and D's if we have this kind of a situation. Is it clear to you, right? So I hope that makes sense, right? So you could try it out. With every position of A, we'll actually get 2 different combinations, right? So that is how we could actually answer this question. Now let's look into part D, 8. 8 is, if A is to B is 3:4 and B is to C is 5:7, find the ratio of A is to C. Now this is a very interesting case. So we'll do it in 2 different ways. So what we are given here is that A is to B equals to 3:4, and we are given B is to C equals to 5:7, right? Now the idea is we could write this as fractions. A over B is 3/4, right? And we know B over C is 5/7. But we need to find what is A over C, right? What is A over C? That is what we need to find. So you could actually write from here, if I multiply these 2, that is, if I do A over B times B over C, B and B cancel, right? So we could write this as 3/4 times 5/7. Now since these B's cancel, we get A over C on the left side, and we can now multiply them, right? 15/28. So the ratio A is to C is 15/28. Is that clear to you? So that is how we could get our answer. So this is one way of doing it, right? Now here is another alternate method. So we are saying that we are talking about A is to B, which is 3 is to 4. Now we have B to C, which is 5 is to 7. In many of our questions which are related to mixtures and proportions, we actually use this beautiful method to find A to C. Now to connect A and C, what are we going to do is, we'll match these two. So to match these two, I can multiply this portion by 4 and this portion by 5. Is that clear? So if I do that, I get 5 times 3 as 15 is to 5 times 4, which is 20. And here I get 4 times 5 as 20 is to 4 times 7 as 28. Now we have our ratio A is to C as 15 is to 20 is to 28. Do you get the sense, right? And since we want A is to C, these two, so we can say A is to C is equal to 15 is to 28. But this is a very good concept. Just make B's equal, then you get relation of all three of them. Perfect. Question number 9. Age of father and son is 50 and 30 years respectively. After how many years from now will the ratio of father and son be 3 is to 2, right? That is what the question is. So we are given the present age. So let's say father and son, right? So for father it is 50 and for son it is 30. Now we need to know after how many years. That means let it be X years, right? So let's say we make after X years. Both will age by X years, so it will be 50 plus X, and this will be 30 plus X. Correct? So that becomes their age after X years. What are we looking for? We are looking for this ratio to be 3 is to 2. That is to say, we have 50 plus X over 30 plus X. That should be in the ratio of 3 is to 2. So that is how we get our equation. Is that clear to you? Now once you have the equation, it is simple. Just cross multiply. So we get 2 times 50 plus X equals to 3 times 30 plus X. That means 100 plus 2X equals to 90 plus 3X. Taking 90 to this side and 2X to the other side, we get X equals to 10. So our answer is after 10 years. Right? Ratio will be 3 is to 2. Is that clear to you, right? So let's move on, and here is our last question. Ratio of almonds, raisins and walnuts is 3 is to 4 is to 5. So we have almonds, raisins to walnuts. The ratio is 3 is to 4 is to 5. If the mixture is 360 grams, how much raisin? So we're talking about total in this case, right? So if the total is 3, 4 and 5, which is 3 plus 4 is 7 plus 5, 12, then those are the grams. But we are given a total of 360. And we need to figure out how much is raisin. Does it make sense to you, right? Okay. So the idea is, if I have to go from 12 to 360, how much should I multiply this by? So it is multiplied by 30, right? So that's the times factor. So times 30 each one of them, right? So if you multiply by 30, you get 30 times 3, which is 90, is to 3 times 4 is 12, 120. 3 times 5 is 150, correct? So that becomes your combination. And clearly, from here we can say resin is how much? 120 grams. So our answer will be will be 120 grams in a mixture of 360 grams. Is that clear to you, right? So that is how you could figure it out. Perfect. So I hope that helps. And with that, we come to an end to our series, rather an example on ratios, rates, and proportions. Feel free to write a comment, share your views, and if you like and subscribe to my videos, that'd be great. Thanks for watching and all the best.